gang members. I'd love to know from you all, any of you, how many drug cartels, gang members, the number, so to speak, do you feel like, and those agents kind of sort of working with them, do we have in the interior of the United States by your estimate? DEA more recently mentioned India. Are there other countries or bad actors that we need to be kind of putting into focus here?
India is really the only player, I think, that comes up on the...
Hey, Patriots. Welcome back to the channel where we tell it like it is, fight for our country, and expose the truth the mainstream media won't touch. If you love America, smash that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into some serious issues affecting our great nation. Folks, I just watched a congressional hearing that should have every single red-blooded American fired up. Border security, the fentanyl crisis, drug cartels, and the utter failure of weak policies. This isn't just some distant problem. This is happening right here, right now, and it's taking American lives. Let's break it down point by point, and I'll give you my unfiltered patriotic take.
Have read is that actually the seizures of drugs have gone up, particularly at ports of entry, since we've seen a more secure border. Is that correct in what you've seen, that we've had an opportunity to seize more drugs at those ports of entry?
Speaking on behalf of HSI El Paso and our response to Customs and Border Protection, we're seeing increased cases as it relates to cocaine, and we're seeing increased seizures and cocaine.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, I had an opportunity to interact with some HSI agents over the weekend, just top shelf, first class. And to all of you and the men and women who work with you, thank you so much for what you do. And I think it's critically important right now that we continue to focus on this. We know that fentanyl death, fentanyl overdoses, fentanyl poisoning is the leading cause of death between the ages of 18 and 45 in our country. We have seen, obviously, the previous administration continue to kick the can down the road, and this administration is taking it serious, making sure that we are using every tool in our toolbox to keep Americans safe. When we look at the nexus between moving that fentanyl and drug cartels and gang members, I'd love to know from you all, any of you, how many drug cartels, gang members, the number, so to speak, do you feel like, and those agents kind of sort of working with them, do we have in the interior of the United States by your estimate? Anybody?
Do you mean individual groups, ma'am, or?
Yeah, like number of people that are associated with those groups, either drug cartels, gang members, et cetera.
Well into the thousands, ma'am.
Wow, 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 wow. When you are looking at the nexus and how this works, how the cartels utilize these gangs to move this product around the country, can one of you tell me a little bit about process-wise, kind of how they do that?
Ma'am, in my experience, the cartels, specifically the Mexican drug cartels, often use the street gangs in the United States as kind of their foot soldiers to carry out some of their dirty work, to carry out, retail distribution, things of that nature. I think, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record to keep going back to the Homeland Security task forces, but one of the things I think that's great about that and helps us address this problem is it allows every agency to bring their expertise to the table. I would reference, FBI's expertise in dealing with violent street gangs and that nature, HSI with the ports and with the chemicals, DEA with our expertise in cartels. I mean, I think we bring it all together to fight this fight.
And we really appreciate you all working together, utilizing your strengths to make sure that we're putting the American people in a safer and stronger position. And I commend President Trump and his administration for making this a priority. When you're looking at the supply chain of how this works, obviously we've talked a lot about China and China's role in these fentanyl precursors and coming here. Is there anything that we need to be doing to be more disruptive to that supply chain from your perspective?
Thank you for your question, ma'am. In HSI El Paso, we have one of our agency's national initiatives, Operation Chainbreaker. And we are looking at pill presses, pill dyes, molds that are being imported in. Obviously, you mentioned the precursor chemicals. The De Minimis Act is really hurting and harming us right now because anything under that $800 threshold is not being subject to search or customs inspection. So that allows these parts and pieces to come in. We're seeing significant numbers of pill presses, dyes that are being brought here. We've, as part of Operation Chainbreaker, we've found over 50 labs set up here in the United States that are now producing fentanyl.
Wow. Okay, when we're talking about China, obviously everyone that's been well documented. DEA more recently mentioned India. Are there other countries or bad actors that we need to be kind of putting into focus here?
India is really the only player I think that comes up on the radar besides China. But let me be clear, like at a much smaller scale.
Okay.
I mean, our focus is definitely needs to be on China.
And as we look at what's happening across the country right now, what do you think the next fentanyl may be? Are you seeing something that is bubbling up and you feel like has the unfortunate opportunity to kind of catch hold here in the United States? And then if so, what can we be doing to be vigilant to warn that off?
I think, ma'am, one of the more emerging threats is not necessarily a new drug itself, but the combination of drugs. For instance, people have been taking xylazine, which is like a veterinary drug, and mixing that with fentanyl. Why that's so dangerous is it basically cancels out the effects of Narcan. So it's because it's not a synthetic opioid. We've had some pretty good, I mean, the public has had pretty good success with Narcan in reviving people and bringing them back from the brink of overdose. But when you put outside things into it as an adulterant to cut it, all in the name of profit, it cancels that out. So it's very dangerous.
Absolutely. And last thing, what should we be doing to better target the financial networks that aid and abet the cartels, including their operation and presence here in the United States?
I would just ask for continued accountability from any type of financial institutions, right, that provide resources that can be exploited or when folks are complicit, but just additional support to law enforcement to abide by lawful process and things that we need for some clarity.
Well, thank you, and thank you again for what you do.
The officials admitted, since President Trump made the border more secure, drug seizures at ports of entry, that's the official crossings, not the gaps in deserts, have skyrocketed. Now, the left wants you to believe that means things are getting worse. But let's use some common sense. If we're catching more drugs, it's because we're catching the criminals. That's what happens when you have strong border enforcement and tough policies. More agents, more inspections, more technology. Asterisk, asterisk, that's what works. Asterisk, asterisk. But here's the kicker. The Biden administration is rolling that back. They're more worried about compassion and humanitarian concerns than stopping the poison coming into our country. Under President Trump, we put America first, and the numbers prove it. We need to get back to that. Asterisk, asterisk, secure the border, enforce the law, protect our families. Asterisk, asterisk. Did you know fentanyl is now the #1 cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45? Let that sink in. Not car accidents, not cancer. Asterisk, asterisk, fentanyl overdoses, asterisk, asterisk. And where is it coming from? Across our southern border, thanks to Chinese precursors and Mexican cartels. This isn't just a drug issue. This is chemical warfare against the American people. The previous administration, the one that actually cared about American lives, was making this a priority. Now, the left just wants to kick the can down the road. Enough is enough. We need leaders who will call out China and Mexico, impose real consequences, and treat this like the national emergency it is. When asked how many cartel members and gang affiliates are in the U.S., the answer was well into the thousands. That's right, thousands of dangerous criminals operating right under our noses. Why? Because our interior enforcement is weak, our sanctuary cities give cover to these thugs, and the left wants to defund the police rather than empower them. Mexican drug cartels are using American street gangs as their foot soldiers. They're distributing drugs, committing violence, and destabilizing our communities. This is organized crime on a scale we haven't seen since Prohibition. It's time we treat it as such. We need every law enforcement agency working together, sharing intelligence, and given the resources they need to take these criminal organizations down. Asterisk hard star. Here's something the fake news won't tell you. Thanks to the so-called de minimis law, any package under $800 gets waved right through customs, no inspection. That means pill presses, molds, and chemical precursors, the tools to make deadly fentanyl, are coming in by the thousands, totally unchecked. That's not just a loophole, folks. That's a backdoor for our enemies to poison our country. Congress needs to fix this now. No more excuses, no more studies, just action. Did you know Homeland Security has busted over 50 fentanyl labs inside the U.S.? That's right. This isn't just a Mexico problem. These labs are being set up in our own backyard, using equipment shipped in from overseas, all because of lax enforcement and weak laws. We got to crack down. That means stiffer sentences, more resources for DEA and Homeland Security, and zero tolerance for anyone trafficking or producing this poison. Let's call it what it is. China is deliberately flooding our country with fentanyl precursors. This isn't an accident. It's a strategic attack on the next generation of Americans. And now, India is starting to get in on the act, too, though on a much smaller scale. The Biden administration likes to talk tough on China, but where's the action? President Trump was the only one with the guts to stand up to China, and it's high time we start holding them accountable with sanctions, tariffs, or whatever it takes. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse. Now, they're mixing fentanyl with xylazine, a veterinary tranquilizer. Why? Because it makes Narcan, the life-saving overdose reversal drug, useless. This is pure evil. The cartels don't care about human life. They care about profit, and they'll do anything, even weaponize animal drugs, to make more money at our expense. We need to get ahead of this, ban these chemicals, and give law enforcement the power to shut these operations down before they spread any further. The cartels aren't just moving drugs, they're moving money. Billions of dollars are flowing through banks and financial networks, and too many institutions are looking the other way. We need real accountability. Banks must be required to flag suspicious transactions, cooperate with law enforcement, and pay the price if they're caught helping these criminals. Patriots, this isn't just policy talk. This is about saving American lives, protecting our communities, and standing up for what's right. We need strong borders. We need tough enforcement. We need to call out China and the cartels for what they are, enemies of the American people. Let your representatives know. And own more weakness. Demand action, demand accountability, and demand that America comes first. If you agree, share this video, hit that like, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. We will not be silenced. We will not stand by while our country is attacked from within and without. God bless you. God bless our law enforcement. And God bless the United States of America.